In this tutorial, we'll cover how to use the elements in the Geneva Swiss-style corporate video pack in Premiere, Final Cut, and After Effects. You can use these elements in any video software that supports RGB+A video and includes text tools. These elements are QuickTime MOV format, so to use them, you'll need to make sure that you have the latest version of QuickTime Player installed. So let's get started in Premiere. What we have here is this clip of this woman sitting on an airplane, and what I'm going to do is use an element from the Geneva pack to add a lower third to this scene. So the first thing that we need to do is decide which element we want to use. And here we have logo reveals. We have 8 different styles, each with different animations for different purposes within them. So I'm going to go through and just start looking through the different elements and see which one is the one that I might want to use. And for this shot, I think I'm going to use the number 4 element from style number 2. So I'm going to drag that onto our clip here, and there we go. It's important to note that these elements have been optimized for 4K. So if your project is 1920 by 1080, for example, you'll need to scale it to 50%. But we're going to do that later on after we've added our text. So before we do anything with text, I want to make sure that the element is actually the length that we need it to be. And here I want it to actually extend for the entire length of the shot. So the quickest way to do that is to navigate to the part where the animation has settled, so right about there, and we'll make a cut with the cut tool, and then we'll find a point right before the animation animates out, which is right there, and we'll cut there again. Now we have this middle section that we can extend for as long as we want. So I'm just going to keep holding down the Alt key and keep dragging copies until we've filled in that entire section. Also, if you'd like, it's really easy to change the color of these elements. So we're going to grab the fast color corrector from our effects bin here, and we're going to scroll down in the effect to the U angle option. And there you can change the color to whatever you like. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it the color that it was. So I'm going to delete that out. And now we're going to go ahead and add our text. So when you download Geneva, you'll also get a style guide. If you open the style guide, in here you'll find all of the information you need to create lower thirds and elements that match the look of the ones in the demo video. So in the demo, we use the font Roboto. Roboto is a free Google font that we've included the download link in the style guide. So all you have to do is just click on that link, go to the page, and download the font and install it to your machine. Once you have the font installed, you can go ahead and find the element that you're using in the style guide. So here, if you reference the number here, we have the number 4 double line from style 2. So if we go to the style guide, find number 4, it's the double line from style 2, we can find the correct font size as well as tracking information for both lines. So you'll see here it says for the title we use Roboto Medium 109 point font with -49 tracking. So to add text in Premiere now, all you need to do is select this type tool. So we'll select that. And let's just click right here on the edge of this black line, just like it was in the style guide, and we'll make sure that all of our font settings are correct. So here we want to make sure that Roboto is selected. We want to make sure that the medium weight is selected. And we also want to make sure that the font size is 109, just like it was in the style guide. Also, we need to set the tracking to -49. So let's go ahead and type in some text here. So we'll just call her Jane Doe. Now I'm going to just move that down into place. Now that we have our title text in place, I'm going to click down here and create another text element. This element is going to be the body text. So if we go down here, back to our style guide, we can see here that the body text needs to be Roboto Light 60 point with 0 tracking. So let's make sure that we have our settings correct. We have Roboto font, light, weight, and let's set that to 60 on the size, and let's change the tracking to 0. Also, let's go ahead and change the color to black, just like it was in the example. Now we can go ahead and add our text. And just like before, let's go ahead and just kind of move it where it looks a little bit better with the position tools. And there we go. So now let's go back and look at our style guide, make sure everything's looking right. There we go, pretty good. So now you have your text, and all you have to do is have it fade appropriately with the element. So we'll want to go ahead and start fading in the text kind of right around here, where the animation is kind of starting to settle. We'll just right click here at the beginning of the element, and we'll select Apply Default Transition, and we'll do the same on both text elements. So now, see, there we go, it fades in, and we'll just go ahead and extend the text, and we'll find the part where the animation is about to animate back out, right about there, and we'll extend the text there as well. So now add a fade to the end, and so there we go. So now, obviously, our lower third is quite too large. The easiest way to change that, with all these elements being the correct size and everything, we're going to select our text elements as well as the Geneva element, and we're going to right-click and select Nest. And we'll just call this Jane Doe lower third. So now we have the entire lower third as one element, and we can select that and go up to scale, and we'll scale it to 50%. And again, that's because these elements were made for 4K, and this clip right here is 1920 by 1080. Now you can select your nest and select the motion here, and you'll get this little bounding box, and you can position it wherever you like. And so there you go. In Geneva, you'll find that we have 8 different styles of logo reveals, each including a square logo option and a wide logo option for logos that have text included. So what you'll see here is I have the Rocketstock emblem here, and I'm going to use one of the elements to animate it on as well as add an animation above it. So what I'm going to do is just find one that I like, and I think this one's going to look pretty cool. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drag the matte layer down onto our sequence. And you'll see here that the matte layer is a little bit too big, so I'm going to go ahead and scale that down just to where the square matches the size of the logo there. And so there, it looks pretty good. And we'll just need to make sure that we size the other element to the exact same size. So here we have 37. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our square logo, and that's where the actual animation itself is going to take place. And we'll set that scale to 37 as well. So now we have this nice little animation, but we need to make the matte layer actually reveal the logo itself. And to do that, we're going to use an effect called Track Matte Key, and we'll drag that right over to the Rocketstock logo on our sequence. Now in this drop down here, you'll see that we have video 4 and video 3 options. Down here on the sequence, you can see that our matte layer is on video 3. So we're going to set that to video 3, and now the matte layer is actually going to animate the logo on. And in Geneva, we also include 8 different transitions. So here we have one clip leading into another, and we want to use one of our transition elements to make that look a lot better. So what we're going to do is just grab one of these from here, and each one of these folders has about 6 different transitions for you to choose from. So I'm just going to find one that I like, and I think this one's pretty cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line the transition up to where the point that the clip changes, the screen is mostly filled with the transition. Okay, right there looks good. And because these transitions are created for a 4K sequence, we need to go ahead and scale it down. And the way we'll do that is we'll right-click the element and select Scale to Frame Size. And now what we need to do is use the matte layer for the transition to make sure that when the transition is complete, we're not left with this black screen here, and we are left with our second clip there. So since this was Graphics 4, we're going to go ahead and pull down Matte 4. And let's make sure it's lined up exactly with the clip above. And again, we need to scale it from the 4K resolution down. So we'll right click and select Scale to Frame Size. And now we'll go ahead and grab our Track Matte Key effect again, and we'll put it on the graphics layer of the transition. And then from there, we just need to set the matte layer to video 3, and then we need to reverse it. So now we have a nice transition. So in Final Cut, once you get everything imported, the first step that you want to do is select the element that you want to use and go over here to Spatial Conform and make sure that it's set from Fit to None, because we want to make sure that we have all the control over the scale of this element. So down here, I have this shot of the ocean here, and I'm just going to drag this number 4 2 lines element down. So I'm going to go ahead and design this lower third using the guidelines from our style guide here. So this particular element is from style 5, it's number 4. So we're going to find that right here. And for the title, we need Roboto Medium 110 point and tracking at -56. And to create text, we're going to go up here and we're going to select the titles. And let's go and select the basic title option. So I'm going to go ahead and drag one in for the title, and then I'm going to drag another one in for the subtext of the lower third. And I'm going to make sure it's all lined up correctly here. And so let's just select the title option, and we're going to go ahead and just move it up here. And let's change our text options to the correct one. So we're going to go over here and select Roboto. And again, so we need to set it to 110 point at -56 tracking. And if you want to change the colors, you drop down this little face option here. We're going to go ahead and make that black just like it was in the example. And in Final Cut, you don't have standard tracking options, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to make it match the guide as much as possible. Body text, we're going to use Roboto Regular at 65 point. And so now obviously it's quite too large. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all of the lower third elements, and we're going to right click and make a new compound clip, and we'll just call this ocean lower third. And we'll select that, and let's just go ahead and drop down the transform controls, and we'll scale it to 50%. Then we can use these position controls to position it wherever we like. And then the last thing that we want to do is just make sure that we have the text fade up at the correct time. So I think right about here is where you want it to start. So I'm going to go ahead and click into there, and let's just move these endpoints. Let's go to the transitions area, and let's just drag the cross dissolve to the beginning to each of those clips. And it'll automatically have them fade out as well. So now let's go back to our other sequence. And here we go. Here's what we have. And if you wanted to change the color of these elements in Final Cut as well, you could go to your effects panel, and let's go to color, and we'll grab a hue and saturation effect and drag that on. And then up here, you can just change the hue angle to alter the color to whatever you like. So now let's get started in After Effects. Right here I have a composition set up with this guy kind of walking down, and I'm going to drag one of the elements from, let's say, style 4 into this composition. And so here's what we have. So we're in style 4, and this is element number 4. So let's go to our style guide again, and we'll find style 4. And here's style 4, element number 4. And again, so we have our title, it's Roboto Bold at 115 point with our tracking at -30. So I'm going to go and select the text tool, and we'll click here, and let's just type in Rocket Stock. And again, so we need to change our font to Roboto. We'll set it to bold. We need to make it 115 point, and we need to change the tracking to -30. Also, I'm going to turn off all caps there. And let's just get it in position. And then for the body text, we have Roboto Light at 50 with -16 tracking. So I'm going to grab the text tool again. Let's click down here, and we'll just type in, and let's get that in position. And again, we need to change it to light at 50 point with -16 tracking. So Roboto, and let's get it in position here. And let's also just check the colors real quick. So on this, it looks like they were using red with kind of a light gray. So let's change that text to red, and we'll just grab our medicine dropper here and just grab that font color right there. We'll do the same and use the medicine dropper again, and we'll just select this lightish gray. And also, again, we have this all set up for a 4K composition. So since this is 1920 by 1080, we need to scale it to 50%. So I'm going to go ahead, and just to keep everything organized, I'm going to select both of those text elements, and I'm going to parent them to our lower third layer from the Geneva pack. And now I'm going to hit the S key for scale, and I'm just going to go ahead and type in 50. So now it's the appropriate size, and we can position it wherever we like, and those elements are tied to the background itself. And now the only other thing we need to do is just make sure that the elements are fading up at the right time for this animation. So we'll just find a point where it seems like they should start fading up, and I think probably right around here would be a good spot. So I'm going to select both of those layers, and I'm going to hit the T key for opacity. I'm going to go ahead and click the stopwatch for both of them. And I'm just going to drag those keyframes out a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and set another keyframe in that same spot at 0. So now they're going to fade up. And then I'm going to go down to the end and do the same thing, but in reverse. So I'm going to set keyframes there for both. And then we'll just go down to the end here, and it seems like they should be faded out by there. So I'm going to select both and set an opacity keyframe at 0 for both of those. And in After Effects, if you wanted to change the color here, all you need to do is just select that, and we'll go up to Effect, Color Correction, select Hue and Saturation, and you can change the angle of the color there as well. And for the logo reveals, it'll work similarly to Premiere as well. Let's just go ahead and grab one of the styles, and we're going to stick to a square logo reveal here, and let's just see what this one looks like. And let's just use this one right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and just drag that into our comp, and let's just get it scaled where we like it. So something about right there looks about right. So the scale there is at 26%. And so let's go ahead and drag in our matte, and we'll scale that to the exact same size, so 26. And let's just set the track matte here, toggle switches here. Let's just set the track matte right here on the logo layer to the matte layer right above. And so there you go. There's your logo reveal. And so for the transitions, I'm going to go ahead and pull out one from Style 2 here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag that in. And again, we're going to find a point where the screen is pretty much full, and let's also go ahead and make sure that we have it scaled properly. So let's go to Transform, and we'll hit Fit to Comp. And I say right about there is where it's going to fill the screen, so we'll just kind of move that around. Right about there looks good. And then we'll go ahead and drag the matte layer for that same thing and just make sure it lines up perfectly. And we'll scale that to comp as well. And for the track matte of the graphics layer of the transition, we're going to set it to alpha inverted matte. So now you have a nice transition. So that's just a quick explanation of how to use the elements in the Geneva pack. Keep in mind that all of these elements are 4K optimized, and that you can lengthen or shorten them to whatever size you like by cutting out parts of the middle and duplicating or shortening. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our support staff and we'll be happy to help you out. Good luck with all your projects and enjoy!